Last week, Attorney General Gary King filed documents urging the state Supreme Court to begin allowing same-sex marriage. The court had asked for his opinion on a lawsuit filed by two men in Santa Fe who were denied a marriage license. Mr. King is urging the court to approve more broadly of gay marriage rights in its ruling rather than ruling narrowly on this one case. There's a possible political twist to all this, since Mr. King is planning to run or is running for governor against Ms. Martinez, who has opposed equal marriage efforts. Whitney, Mr. King stated his support for marriage equality, but earlier this year, we all remember, we talked about it at this table, he said it was a constitutional issue, the claim the courts had to decide. What's your take on his latest thing? A political move, a pragmatic move? He was asked to offer an opinion. He's offered it. Where do we go from here with him?
Yeah, I think you can definitely see a switch in position. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, Dan and I were talking earlier, and definitely the governor's position on that is one that I agree with, that we ought to send this to the voters in terms of a constitutional amendment. It's a very important issue. It's a very personal issue. You know, it is one I think that should be decided by there. And ultimately,
why not the courts? Why not deciding in the courts instead of the public?
Because you don't legislate in the courts, Gene. That we've argued about that ad nauseum at this table.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. John, would you agree with that? Is there a way to litigate this outside the courts?
No, the courts are the exactly proper way, and I think that even these recent rulings from the United States Supreme Court by conservative justices kind of justify that. These marriage cases are all about the Equal Protection Clause of the United States 14th Amendment, which extends to the states, and also we have a similar provision under the state constitution. What that says, it's a very fundamental constitutional principle in the United States that everybody deserves equal application of the law. And so these rulings that have been coming down from courts around the country are based on the idea that you can't make a distinguishing mark in the law based on who you love. Okay. And there should be, therefore, marriage equality on that basis constitutionally. That is the reason that we have a court system. It's a founding principle of this country that we have constitutional review of the laws. And so I think that the courts are the right place. And I think the Attorney General is making, I agree with his most recent filing. It basically says, look, the laws of New Mexico as written, even though they're ambiguous and they don't refer to gender, do probably include a ban on gay marriage. That's a controversial position that a lot of people disagree with, including the city of Santa Fe. And various legal scholars disagree with his interpretation of the statutory law. What the Attorney General has now said is, well, I agree that the statute bans it probably. What I would say is that the Equal Protection Clause of the constitutional law says that it should be that there should be no ban on gay marriage, and I think it's the correct legal position.
Sure, but interestingly, Martha, unless I'm reading this wrong, it doesn't seem like the Supreme Court is inclined to make a ruling on its own at this point. They're saying they're going to kick it back. There's other ways to handle this.
Well, it's interesting because the Attorney General is actually trying to have it both ways, Gene.
Gotcha.
He says to the court, if you decide to take the case, you must rule in favor of gay marriage. But I don't think you should take the case because I don't think you have jurisdiction. Only the courts that have jurisdiction over counties, because this involves the county of Santa Fe and the county clerk. So he's kind of trying to cut it both ways.
Is he able to come out of this with a clear understanding when people look at him and say, Gary King stands for gay marriage? Is that clear for him now?
I think it's clearer than it was. Yes, I do. I think, but he's doing a little bit of a Rorschach thing, whichever side you want to take. But back to the idea that the voters should decide. The only way the voters could decide would be to put a constitutional amendment to the New Mexico Constitution up before the voters. This exact question was litigated in Hawaii a while back because they had a state equal rights amendment, and the state Supreme Court ruled that because of that equal rights amendment, gay marriage was legal in the state. And the voters came back, put a constitutional amendment on the ballot banning gay marriage, and it did pass. So where that is now, I'd have to defer to the lawyers, but you got two competing constitutional amendments. So that is a morass that I think we don't want to have in New Mexico.
Right. And that's an important point because a lot of viewers may not understand that New Mexico is one of the few states that actually has an equal rights amendment, which of course did not get ratified as an amendment to the federal Constitution. But we're one of the more progressive states that has that equal rights amendment at the state level, and that's the legal question that Martha was talking about.
But Gene, I think back to the original question about the AG. I think I think the bigger question is, we've seen this from the Attorney General before. This was in the PRC race with Al Park and Karen Montoya. He said, I'm not going to do this because this has not been tested in the courts. But after a private email from the campaign manager of Karen Montoya, he switched his opinion in midstream, and all of a sudden we get money flowing out. Now he's saying, well, that this law hasn't been tested in the courts either, but I'm going to go ahead and make a ruling anyway. You can't be half pregnant.
But he was asked, though, for his opinion.
But opinions are different than his actions.
Okay.
It's not his opinion that people are going on. It's the fact that he's refusing to do certain things. Gotcha. And the problem with him as the Attorney General is he has been a complete disaster at the current job. He has spent 7 years running for the next job. The problem is you look at, he has not one that I can look at, one high-profile, successful prosecution since he's been the Attorney General. And we all could agree, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. He's had a platter from which he could choose from, and he's fumbled the ball on every single one of those. And what you're finding out is that this is literally one of the most political, partisan attorney generals we've ever had. And the sad part is that's not the role of Attorney General.
Let's back to the knitting on this, Whitney. Where does this take? Again, I'm interested in where this takes him from
He's
here.
consistently inconsistent.
Is he becoming more, as Martha's saying, is he becoming more in focus as a candidate? Is this more firmament for him, or as Dan's saying, it gets...
In my experience with candidates, and especially when they've run for a couple of races and succeeded in actually hold office, that it's either easy for a candidate to take a hard position regardless of how it's going to come at them later because it's what they believe, or they do this constant flip-flap back and forth, and it's so hard to get them to stop doing that. And to me, it just speaks to how difficult this race is going to be because he hasn't been able to really do that. He has a difficult time clarifying his position in a lot of ways because I think he's scared that it's going to hem him in later on. And those are the candidats in really tough races.
He's not going to even win the primary.
Yeah.
Linda Lopez is going to knock it out of the ballpark.
Get too far ahead of ourselves here. We've got about a little bit to go here. I appreciate you bringing in Linda Lopez in this discussion somehow, but that works out. Again, same question. For Gary King, not to make this too Gary King focused, but why not? Is he more firmly focused now? Can people look at him differently now because of this? Because there was frustration out there months ago.
I think there was understandable frustration because, and I do think that the fact that the United States Supreme Court, even some conservatives on the court, were able to look at the constitutional issues with a greater clarity than, frankly, I personally expected out of the court in its rulings on various gay marriage issues recently. I think it allowed him to gain more clarity. I think this has been a tough issue for him to have clarity. I think, to be honest, in this discussion, Gary King has not been the clearest on gay marriage because of his vacillation over what the statutes mean. I mean,
you look in the statute as a state rep too.
Well, let's look at that.
Unfortunately, we got to wrap. I'm going to do a second subject in a row. Got to cut short. I am so sorry.
No
Rockin' Friday night. This is how it goes. We're back soon with two legal scholars dissecting the Supreme Court decision on what John just mentioned, the Defense of Marriage Act, and what it means for New Mexico.